Bienvenidos al programa, estamos acá con Andreas Antonopolous, que es un experto del mundo Bitcoin, y esta entrevista la vamos a hacer en inglés porque es su idioma nativo, el que él más entiende. Así que, hi Andreas, how are you? Welcome to the program. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
We are at LaBitConf Uruguay 2019, Montevideo. This is your first time here in Uruguay?
It's my second time. I came here on vacation before, but it's my first time for work, yeah.
All right. And Andreas is like an evangelist, one of the best speakers around explaining the Bitcoin ecosystem subjects in a way that people can understand it. And today you spoke about privacy. It's a subject that perhaps is not your typical subject, right? Why have you chosen this topic?
I've always been very passionate about privacy. I think it's a fundamental human right. And in fact, without the right to privacy, you lose many of the other rights. So from that perspective, I think it's a very important right, especially when it's related to financial privacy. So it's something I feel passionately about and I talk about quite often.
All right. And why would you consider it like such an important right? I mean, what happens when people lose privacy? What could happen?
So I'll give you just one example. In North Korea, they have elections. You maybe are surprised to hear this.
Yeah, but it's always the same candidate that wins, right?
Oh no, they can have other candidates. So they have one small change in the system of elections based compared to the elections that we have, right? And that is that you put your mark on the ballot in front of the officials. Right. There's no booth, there's no privacy. All they've done is taken away privacy. You can vote for the opposition, but you have to do it while looking at the party member, right? And there will be consequences if you vote. So Kim Jong-un wins 99.99% of the votes, right?
And in the financial world, how can we relate it to that?
Well, it's the same thing in every other way. Like, for example, recently in Hong Kong when there were protests, the people of Hong Kong learned from last time that after the protests were over, the police used the travel information from their credit cards for buying tickets to the metro to track who was going to the protests and arrest thousands of people after the protests were ended. So freedom isn't just the freedom to do something, but also the freedom to do something without getting punished for it afterwards. If a government can punish you afterwards for exercising your political freedoms, then you don't have political freedoms. So privacy is the thing that prevents governments from applying retribution, revenge, for the things that you do. Without privacy, you don't have free vote, you don't have free association, you don't have free political expression, you don't have free speech, you don't have free movement. So it's a fundamental right, especially financial privacy.
And I guess that what people don't understand is that they might think that their current government is safe. They cannot know what the next government will be like, and that they can use this information
from today,
right?
Yes, the information is stored forever. So they can come and find out what you did years afterwards.
And what can people do about it? How can we defend ourselves? What actions can we take in order to have more privacy?
Well, there's a number of things you can do. One of the most important ones is to understand the value of your privacy, not just for you as an individual, but as a society. How if you keep giving up your privacy for small conveniences, for WhatsApp and Facebook, for shopping online, for access to a taxi, then what happens is you don't just lose your privacy, you also lose your democracy. Slowly, but surely. So
you say this because they can use like big data to change the elections or to influence the people.
Yeah, exactly. All of the information about who you are and what will work on you is then used to put propaganda into society. So that you get opportunists being elected because they can run information campaigns based on all of the information they have about you. So
like big companies could like side with one political candidate in particular and help him, for example.
They basically side with the political candidate that they think they can buy most easily.
All right.
The politicians have a price, right?
All right.
So they buy the cheapest, most effective politician they can find, the one that has the least principles, and they run with that. And we see that all around the world. That is how democracy is gradually dying. People still vote, but they get to vote between two corporate propaganda machines, both of which are not interested in the rights of the people. So from that perspective, privacy is very important. Financial privacy is very important. For me, cryptocurrency and open blockchains like Bitcoin allow individuals to exercise significant degrees of financial privacy. And we still need to work harder to get more privacy, but it's a start.
What do you think about Bitcoin's adoption, the rate at which it is being adopted? Are you, do you think it's okay, pleased with it, or do you think it's normal, or are we ahead or behind?
I think it's a bit slow, but one of the main reasons it's slow is because using the systems is difficult. And we are still at a very early stage of a very disruptive and different technology. And people are not comfortable with too much change in their life. So we have to find ways to make it easy without making it less secure.
Right. I have a thought in my head regarding the adoption, that it's very correlated with the price, because demand, the supply of Bitcoin is very known, and when we have more demand, the price goes up, right? But let's suppose that we want Bitcoin to have the price or the capitalization of gold, or the offshore industry, or all of this. It's in the trillions, and we would have to go from $7,000 or $8,000, which is the current price of Bitcoin, to over $100,000. Don't you think that if Bitcoin gets adopted rapidly, it could break the world's economy, in a sense that you have an asset that is doubling in price so often, and that people lose the incentives to do regular work, or that sort of thing? That's a thought. What do you think about that?
I don't think so. I think the world economy is already broken. And you've got to realize that when Bitcoin doubles in price, some of that is Bitcoin, and some of that is a reflection that the dollar just lost half its value.
Right.
So you're always valuing it against something. And so what it's being valued against determines what you're measuring, right? The US dollar is not like 1 meter that is always fixed, right? It's a bit like an elastic band. So when you measure Bitcoin against the dollar, you're not measuring it against something absolute. You're simultaneously measuring the dollar against Bitcoin, and they're both moving, right?
Okay, so it would be the dollar dying, no.
It's both. It's not one or the other. They're both moving independently. It's a dynamic system. But the idea that if people had the ability to store money and have value for long term and build a better future for themselves, they would suddenly stop working is ridiculous.
Yeah, but you open a business and you don't double your capital every year.
Yes. No, you don't. And the point is that in a world where we are today, the idea that the only way for the economy to work is that people are so terrified and trapped in poverty that they have to work until they drop dead, and that's the basis of a healthy economy, is ridiculous. So, no. Our world today can produce, with just 3% of the population, enough food to feed everyone. And our level of productivity is 1,000 times more than it was during the Roman times, for example. Yeah. Why is it that we're not working 1,000 times less? And instead, making art, making poetry, writing books, thinking about things. Why? Because of inequality.
But don't you think that people can choose the kind of lifestyle that they want?
No.
Or that they are not focused on that they can live with less, or that they can... for example, I have a friend that went to live to Australia. He's a very hippie guy. He realized he could work like a few hours one day a week, and then he could spend the rest of the week enjoying himself. It's true that we could work less, but people want more stuff, and they think that happiness comes from more stuff.
I think that's a very small percentage of the population in developed countries that have that kind of luxury to go after more stuff. Most people work just to survive, and they don't have the choice to travel, to spend less. Poverty is expensive, and it's exhausting, and so...
And you link this poverty to the fiat money system. For example, we are at LaBitConf, and we just heard that there's a central banker here from Uruguay, and he's not liking the ambience of the conference because it's very anarchic. How do you feel about him not being comfortable? Or
I think the people of Uruguay have been not comfortable with the central bank for a very long time. I'm not concerned about the comfort of people who already have enormous privilege in society. I don't work for their comfort. And in fact, I think the idea that this person doesn't understand is that he works for the people of Uruguay.
Supposedly, yeah.
Supposedly, they don't work for him. We're not here to make him comfortable, and neither are the people of Uruguay. It's the other way around. And that's, I think, a very good indication of how people can lose contact with the reality of their actions and their position in society. I think we need a world in which there are a lot fewer comfortable bankers and a lot more comfortable people, rather than the current world.
And we can do that with cryptocurrencies.
I think we can do that with more power to individuals and less power to centralized institutions in every aspect of life. And cryptocurrency is one tool, but it's one tool that's part of a broader philosophy of decentralization.
Right. Well, thank you very much, Andreas.
Thank you, Ariel.
See you.